The worn, yellowed envelope sat untouched on the kitchen table for 3 long days before Sophia finally found the courage to open it. Inside, it held shocking news of a surprise inheritance left behind by an aunt she barely even knew. But this sudden rush of money came with a very heavy catch. It was legally required to be split equally between her and her missing brother Alex. The painful problem was, Sophia had not seen or heard from Alex since they were suddenly torn apart by state social workers more than 20 years ago. Those terrifying early days in the foster system had left very deep, invisible scars on her heart. Sophia still clearly remembered the freezing cold feeling of the social worker's car seat, and the very last time she held her crying brother's small hand. Now this sudden burst of wealth felt almost like a cruel trick played by the universe. She desperately wanted to share it, to finally build the warm family they never had a chance to know. But to do that, she needed to find a living ghost. She needed serious professional help. She walked through the heavy frosted glass doors of the Fosters' detective agency with a heavy heart. It was a unique place built entirely by and for kids who grew up lost in the system. Here she met Detective Marcus. Marcus was the agency's absolute best skip tracer. He knew exactly how to find people who had quietly slipped through the giant cracks of society. He deeply understood her desperate need to reconnect, because he still felt the sharp, daily sting of his own lost family and broken childhood bonds. Marcus started the complex sibling search immediately, wasting no time. He did not look in the normal, easy places. He knew that former foster kids do not always leave normal paper trails behind them. They move very often. They change their names, and sometimes they vanish on purpose to stay safe. Marcus dug deep into old, dusty state records, carefully matching birth dates and last known cities. His fingers flew across the computer keyboard, chasing tiny digital shadows through a massive maze of forgotten addresses, fake names, and frustrating dead ends. Days slowly turned into long, quiet weeks. The search was much harder than usual, testing all of his skills. Alex had no social media pages, no steady job history on file, and absolutely no fixed home address. He was a total ghost in the modern world. Marcus knew this specific pattern very well. It was the careful, quiet dance of someone who deeply wanted to stay hidden from the rest of the world. But everyone leaves a mark, no matter how small. Marcus just had to look much closer at the tiny details. The heavy silence of the missing file hinted at a much deeper, sadder story. Marcus sat alone in the quiet agency office late at night, staring at a single faded photo of the 2 children. He knew firsthand that the foster system broke people in very different, unpredictable ways. Some kids, just like Sophia, built strong walls around their hearts and succeeded against all odds. Others fell into the dark gaps and never climbed back out. He worried deeply about which difficult path Alex had been forced to take to survive. Then, a tiny, almost invisible detail suddenly caught his sharp eye. A simple speeding ticket in a small dusty town 3 states away perfectly matched Alex's exact birth date and a middle name he very rarely used. Marcus pulled hard on that single thread of information. The old ticket led to a rundown apartment address, and that address led straight to a local county court database. He had finally found Alex, but the shocking discovery brought a very heavy, cold chill to the quiet room. The glowing computer screen quickly filled with a long, depressing list of court records. Alex had a very real, documented criminal past. It was a long string of petty theft, trespassing, and running from the police. He had spent hard time in and out of local county jails over the last 10 years. The brother Sophia, fondly remembered as a sweet, protective little boy, was now a grown man with a serious rap sheet. The beautiful dream of a happy, easy reunion was suddenly in very real danger of falling apart completely. Marcus had the heavy burden of bringing this dark truth back to Sophia. He sat across from her in the agency's small, quiet meeting room. He spoke very softly, slowly sliding the printed police records across the smooth wooden table. He watched with a heavy heart as the bright hope quickly drained from her face. The money was supposed to be a wonderful gift, but now it felt like a dangerous trap. The inheritance complication was huge, very real, and threatened to ruin everything she had hoped for. Sophia instantly felt a massive rush of hot anger and deep fear. She had worked so incredibly hard for years to build a safe, clean, and honest life for herself. Now, she was about to legally tie herself to a man who actively broke the law. Deep, painful trust issues flared up inside her chest. Could she really hand over a large sum of money to a known thief? Would he just take the easy cash and vanish into the night again? The terrifying questions kept her awake for many long nights. The agency now faced a completely new kind of emotional test. Their job was usually considered done when the missing person was finally found, but the fosters agency never just walked away from a fellow foster kid. They had to carefully guide this broken, fragile reunion. They had to protect Sophia's healing heart and her money, while still giving Alex a fair, honest chance at a fresh start. The stakes were no longer just about finding a lost brother. They were about saving him from his own dark history. Marcus decided he needed to dig deeply into the reasons behind the endless crimes. He drove his car to the small, forgotten town where Alex currently lived. He walked the gritty, broken streets, talking quietly to tired landlords and local shop owners. He read the old, detailed police reports, line by line. He did not see a master criminal or an evil man. He saw a broken man stealing cheap food, sleeping in empty, freezing buildings, and constantly running from a harsh world that had always hurt him. The detective's own painful past fueled his deep understanding of the situation. Marcus clearly remembered what it was like to be starving and totally alone on the cold street. He knew the primal foster care survival instinct better than anyone. When you have absolutely nothing, the normal rules of society feel like a cruel joke. Alex was not stealing to get rich or hurt people. He was stealing simply to stay alive for one more day. The crimes were a tragic symptom of a childhood stolen by the state. Marcus brought this brand new, heartbreaking context back to Sophia. He did not make any false excuses for Alex, but he painted a very true, honest picture of his hard life. He explained that the sweet boy she loved was still in there, buried deep under years of pain, neglect, and bad choices. The context completely changed the color of the harsh crimes. It shifted the story from one of anger and meanness to one of deep, crushing sadness and a desperate need to survive. Sophia wept openly as she heard the full, honest truth. Her sharp anger slowly melted into a deep, aching grief for the little brother she could not protect. She realized that while she had found a lucky way to thrive, Alex had taken all the hardest hits from the world. The inheritance was no longer just a lucky break or a pile of cash. It was a powerful tool. It was a rare, golden chance to finally pull her brother out of the dark and into the light. The very first meeting was carefully set up in a quiet, sunny, public park. It was safe, neutral ground for both of them. Sophia sat on a green wooden bench, her hands shaking with intense, nervous energy. Marcus stood a few yards away, keeping a very watchful, protective eye on the scene. Then, Alex slowly walked up the dirt path. He looked incredibly tired, much older than his actual years, and very nervous. The sibling reunion challenges were right there in the open air, heavy and intensely real. They did not rush to hug each other right away. There was simply too much lost time and too much unspoken pain standing between them. Alex looked down at the ground, deeply ashamed of his hard life and his criminal record. He already knew about the money, and he fully expected Sophia to turn him away in disgust. He spoke in a low, rough voice, apologizing for the broken man he had become. He told her she should just keep the cash and forget about him forever, but Sophia did not walk away from him this time. She reached out and gently held his rough hand, just like she did when they were scared little kids. She told him all about the agency, about Marcus, and about facing the hard truth of his past. Then she told him that absolutely none of it mattered more than finally being a family again. The heavy wall of shame between them began to crack. A tiny, beautiful seed of real forgiveness was planted in the quiet park. Marcus watched the tears fall from a safe distance. This exact moment was exactly why he did this heavy, emotional work. It was not about the thrill of the chase or the cleverness of the digital search. It was always about these raw, deeply human moments of connection. He saw two innocent victims of a broken system finally finding a way to heal each other. The terrible shared trauma that once tore them apart was now the very thing pulling them back together. Over the next few weeks, they worked out a very careful plan for the money. The inheritance would be split equally, but with very careful, smart steps. Sophia helped Alex set up a real bank account and find a safe, clean place to live. The money finally gave him a safety net he had never known in his entire life. It was not a magic fix for his dark past, but it was a solid, hopeful foundation for his brand new future. Real trust was built very slowly, day by day, step by step. Alex found a steady, honest job and kept it. He finally stopped running from the world. Sophia learned to slowly let go of her deep fear and truly see the good heart inside him. The criminal past did not magically vanish, but it lost its heavy power over their lives. They were no longer defined by the worst things that had happened to them. They were defined by their brave choice to try again. Back at the quiet office, Marcus gently closed the thick paper file. The Fosters' detective agency had done its job beautifully. They had successfully navigated a wild storm of dark secrets, past crimes, and deeply broken trust. They had taken a complex case that looked like a total disaster and turned it into a beautiful story of hope. It was a powerful reminder that justice is not always about putting broken people in jail. Sometimes true justice is simply helping them find their way back home. The emotional echoes of that specific case lingered in the agency halls for a very long time. There would always be more missing siblings to find, more hidden secrets to uncover, and more broken pasts to gently heal. But the vital work would always continue. For every single child lost in the cold system, there was always a chance for a warm new beginning. And as long as those chances existed in the world, the search for truth and family would never truly end.